So I've been doing some upgrades here to the cooling for a lot of my NerdQAxe series miners, including upgrading the fans and the heat sinks here. The NerdQAxes come with some really good cooling out of the gate, adding some additional fans for voltage regulators. You can see some of the older fans right there. But one thing that I haven't actually upgraded yet are the fans in the power supplies themselves. I've got an LRS 600 right here. It's a really beefy power supply to power some of these miners. And this fan in here gets really, really loud. And so for that reason, I've also ordered a Noctua fan for the power supply as well as the cabling that I need to plug it in. So let's go ahead and run through that process. Now, it's definitely worth mentioning that opening up a power supply like this can be dangerous. There's some capacitors in here that store quite a bit of power even when it's physically unplugged, and so you're definitely going to want to be careful with this. Now, as far as the mod itself, we've got the Noctua fan, which is going to be just kind of going in place like this, in place of the stock fan. And then I've also got an adapter right here that's going to be converting this connector to the 2-pin connector that you need inside the power supply. And to remove this lid right here to access the fan, there's a couple screws you're going to want to access. So there's going to be 1, 2, and then on the other side, we've got 3 and 4. And then with the screws removed, we can go ahead and just lift this lid off like so. And then if you take a look at the fan itself like this, you'll notice that there's the cable with a 2-pin connector right there that connects to the main PCB. You can just remove the connector here like so, and then we'll remove the lid. And if you take a look at the replacement fan, you'll notice that we picked one here that's going to be the same size, the same dimensions and all. And it's also got the same thickness as well. Now the connectors are a little bit different though. You'll notice the factory one uses this 2-pin connector, while this Noctua that I have has a 3-pin connector, which is where this adapter is going to come into play. And when we attach it here to the connector for the Noctua, you can see that now it's going to be converting this 3-pin connector to the same 2-pin connector. Now, I have seen some people online report that the pins here are actually flipped relative to what's in there, and some people actually have needed to switch it around, so we're going to want to test that. And I also just want to double check the direction of the airflow here between the two fans so we match them up. And to verify, you can always plug everything in and connect a miner like this, but the fan itself doesn't always kick on. It kind of turns on and off as needed depending on ambient temperatures and load and whatnot. However, if you take a closer look at the fan itself, you can note that they actually mention the direction of the airflow. There's an arrow pointing this way, mentioning that it's blowing air out of the power supply itself, and the blades, you can see it, they're going to be spinning over this direction. So we just want to match the same thing here with our Noctua, where again, we've got the airflow going out of the power supply and then the fans rotating in the same direction. And with that in mind, we can go ahead and start to unscrew the fan itself from the power supply, and it should pop off like that. And then we'll just put the replacement Noctua here in its spot. And then once we get the screw holes aligned here, we'll be able to put the new one in its place. But before we do, I do want to just double check this connector here and verify that it works. So we'll plug this new fan here into the same header. And like the factory fan, it's not going to be running out of the gate, so we do have to wait for things to start to heat up, so the fan is going to kick on. And to add some additional load here to hopefully kick up that fan soon, I'm just going to grab another miner here out of the closet, or out of the garage, I mean. Then we can plug the second miner here into the same power supply and then wait for everything to spin up here. Now, even with this extra load though, this fan is not spinning. And then taking a closer look at the stock fan and one of these other adapters, like others have mentioned, the red power wire and the black ground wire, they are flipped and reversed here relative to the stock fans. We are gonna have to switch those here in our adapter. Now, luckily though, removing the little wires here inside the connector is pretty straightforward. The trick is you're gonna wanna kind of like push down like this and then slide it out. And if we take a little closer look here, the top of the wire has this little flap that sticks up like that, and you're going to be basically pushing it down like this so that it unclips from the top in there, and then it's going to be able to kind of like go down and then out. Here's another look with the other connector removed, and as you can see, there's a little flap that sticks up right there on top if we look at the black one, for example, and that's what you want to be pushing down on to be able to slide it out here. That way it's no longer hooked into the top of the little plastic connector right there. Then taking another look at the stock fan, you can see we've got the red on the left and black on the right, so we're going to replicate that. Then we can go ahead and get our wires flipped, and then we're going to slide this on. And once we do, they should lock back into place. It doesn't click or anything, but once you tug on the end of the connector, it's not going to be coming off because they're locked securely again. And then with everything powered off, I'm going to replace the stock adapter with the one that I just switched the pins on. Then we'll let everything start to boot back up here, and then hopefully soon, this fan will kick back on. And now it looks like the fan is up and running. I also moved it out here to the garage where it's a little bit hotter. You can see the miners down here. I put the lid right there to restrict some of the airflow and trigger the fan. But either way, it looks like it's up and running, and this fan is way quieter than before. This is definitely a nice improvement. Then bringing it back inside, we can figure out cable management next. And I'm thinking kind of something like this, where I can have the fan sitting right around in this area, and the wiring just kind of like runs around these big capacitors like that, and right over here. And with that in mind, that means we're going to be taking the fan and putting it like so. Then we can go ahead and get our screw holes aligned like that. Then we can get our screws in place and start to screw them back in. And again, we do want to make sure that we have the arrows set up so the fan is designed to pull the hot air out of the power supply and blow it out. And then once we have our cables run where we planned, we can go ahead and start to slot the lid back in place here. Then we can just reinstall these screws here on the side to secure the lid back in place. And as you can see, we now have our upgraded Noctua fan here, which is going to be much, much quieter than what we were using here with the loud stock fan. I'll go ahead and bring everything back over here to the garage. And so now the LRS 600 has the same Noctua fan upgrade that I've done on the LRS 350, same size fans and everything. And so now both of them here have the upgraded quiet fans. Now this video is not sponsored by Noctua or anything. I've just used their fans for a while and I've had good experiences with them. You can see I've got one right over here for the voltage regulator. I've got another one here on this NerdQAxe, both front and in the rear. And I've also been using a bunch of them over here in my Bitaxes as well. And so if you want to do the same upgrade for your power supplies, I'll put a link in the video description to where you can order this fan, as well as the adapter that you're going to need, plus some links to some recommendations for like different NerdQAxes if you want to pick them up, and if you want to do some overclocking and upgrades for these ones too. I'll have links to all of that stuff for you down in the description below. And with that said, thanks so much for watching. Hope you're all doing great, and I'll see you in the next one.